Okay, good morning, fourth graders. Today we are looking at a new chapter. This is chapter 11, lesson 1, and we're learning about squares and rectangles. You might be thinking, well, I already know everything about squares and rectangles, but hopefully I can teach you some new vocabulary today and we can learn some, geometry terms and symbols that are used in the upper grades. So our lesson objective is to understand and apply the properties of squares and rectangles. So first thing, this is a square. A square is a four-sided figure. It has four sides, 1, 2, 3, 4. It has four sides of the same length. So when you look over here, yes, every side is labeled with 15 inches, but you can also see these little lines on every side, and those tick marks let you know if there's one tick mark here and one tick mark here and one, that those are of equal length. Because sometimes in a book it's hard to tell, and if you don't have a ruler handy, then you might not know. That's what this box is saying. The tick marks show that the lengths of all the sides are equal. Its opposite sides are parallel. Its opposite sides are parallel, which means this side and this side never get any closer together or further apart. Let's mark right here. This side and this side are parallel, like railroad tracks. And then this side and this side are parallel. And then down here it shows you AB is parallel to DC and AD is parallel to BC. It has four right angles. If you look in the corners here of the shape, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 right angles. Remember, a right angle is a perfect square corner. If it doesn't have a perfect square corner, then it's not a right angle. Okay, so that's a square. Now let's look at rectangles. This is a rectangle. A rectangle is also a four-sided figure. Boom, four sides. Its opposite sides are of equal length. So the opposite sides are equal, but this side and this side don't have to be equal. And then if you pay attention to these little tick marks again, they let you know that this side, there's one tick mark and one tick mark. So these are the same. And then this has 2 and 2. So these two sides are the same. Its opposite sides are parallel. Okay, so this side, side EF, and side HG are parallel. They never get any closer together or further apart. Side EH and FG are parallel. They never get any closer or further apart. All right, let's look at the next page. One important thing that the book doesn't just come out and say, but all squares, if it's a square, all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. If it has four sides and and the sides, opposite sides are parallel, and it has four right angles, then it's a rectangle. Okay. Squares, if you look at squares, they have four right angles and opposite sides are parallel. So that means that this square is a rectangle. It's kind of like saying all of Mrs. Mullen's class is in fourth grade, but not all fourth graders are in Mrs. Mullen's class. So all squares are rectangles. A square is a special type of rectangle. All right, here's some practice things. Here's four figures, X, Y, and Z. And let's just take a look at these, or three figures, X, Y, and Z. And let's take a look at their properties and fill out this checklist. So, figure X, Y, and Z all have four sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All sides are equal length. Let's see, which one can we check off? All sides are equal length. Figure X. No, this is like 2 squares, and this is 2 squares, but this is like 2.5 squares. So figure X, all sides are not the same. Figure Y, we have 2 squares by 4 squares, so no. Figure Z is a 2 by 2, so yes, all 4 sides are the same length. Opposite sides are of equal length. This side and this side are equal. This side and this side are equal. So yes, opposite sides are equal. 2 and 2, opposite sides are equal. I don't know why my marks won't stay on this page. That's okay. Has exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. 1 pair of parallel sides? Yes, this figure X has 1 pair of parallel sides. Figures Y and Z both have 2 pairs of parallel sides. Has exactly 4 right angles? Yes. No, figure X does not. Figure X has 1, 2 right angles. So figure X has 2 and figures Y and Z have 4. Figure blank is a rectangle and a square. So just looking at these, I can tell that figure Z is a rectangle and it's a square. Figure blank is a rectangle but not a square. Figure Y is a rectangle but not a square. Figure blank is not a square or a rectangle. That would be figure X. All right, I'm going to zoom through. In your workbook, you have these questions where they'll give you a figure and they want you to split it into rectangles and squares. So I think you guys are you'll be pretty good at that. Like this one, there's different ways to do it, but there's a square, here's a rectangle, and here's a square. Okay, that's one way you could split it. Another way to split it would be to doop and doop. Now I have square, rectangle, rectangle. There's lots of different ways to do it. Just don't go diagonally because then you'll end up with figures that are not squares or rectangles. This one, I think that it would be good here. You have a square and a rectangle. But you could also go here and here. Then you have rectangle, square, square. Or you could go here and here. Excuse me. And then you have 3 rectangles. So there's different ways to do it. Just make sure you draw those straight lines on the grid and you should end up with rectangles and squares. Another thing on your workbook that you're going to see a lot of is to find the length of the unknown sides. So this one wants you find the lengths of the unknown sides of the squares and the rectangles. So the first thing I would do is look at the figure, pay attention to the tick marks. Well, I see 4 single tick marks, so that tells me that this is probably a square. So if this side is 5 centimeters, that means all the sides are 5 centimeters. So side AB is 5, so side AD is going to be 5. Side BC is going to be 5, and side DC is going to be 5. Same thing on this one. All the sides are going to be equal. They're all going to be 7. If you look at this one, I'm just going to identify first, is it a square or is it a rectangle? And this one is a rectangle because this side is not equal to this side. This side's 12 meters and this side's 4 meters. Opposite sides are the same length. So if L is 12, then JK is 12. So over here, JK, this is side JK, its opposite side is 12, so it is going to be a 12. Okay, and then you have LK is 4, its opposite side is IJ, and that's going to also be 4. I don't think you guys will have too hard of a time with that. That is squares and rectangles. You are going to be doing your math workbook, pages pages 79 through 82. The assignment looks like this: squares and rectangles. It'll just ask you to identify if things are squares or rectangles. Keep in mind that squares are rectangles. So if it's a square, it is a rectangle. But if it's a rectangle, it's not necessarily a square. Okay? And then practice 2, you don't need to worry about. Just go to page 82. Let me know if you have any questions. You can email me, call, whatever, and I will be available. Bye.